Good morning, everybody. We wanted to wait a little bit because we know the keynote ran over. My name is Bene Gatzert, and I'm here as the moderator with your wonderful panel of Harumi, Larry, Ruth Ann, and Patrick. We met a few weeks ago and started this conversation, and I'll let you know they're a really fun group, and they have a lot of wisdom and insights to share. So I'm really excited that you'll get to hear from them. I was thinking a little bit this morning about mentoring, and well, they're going to talk about the benefits and help define the different roles we'll be talking about today. I recognize it's really an opportunity for us to be intentional the same way that you're all being intentional today. It's an opportunity to get support around our professional and our career development, and a time to really be able to pause and reflect. It's actually one of my favorite topics. I've been on campus as a staff person since '89, as a student since '84, and I've been lucky to have many mentors, one of which I noticed is in the room today. So I'm very excited. We wanted to share, the planning committee was very intentional about putting together today's session and wanted to make sure that everybody got to reflect on 3 kinds of support you can get around your career. One is mentorship, which I feel like people are most familiar with, somebody who is going to help you either formally or informally around your career. A coach who provides guidance on your development, which can include soft skills, and a sponsor, which is somebody who is often kind of above you in the hierarchy, somebody more in senior administration who opens doors, provides opportunities, helps you get other assignments. And we can benefit from having any or all of those in our professional lives. So what we're going to do today is really have a conversation. We didn't want to do a traditional panel where all it is you hear from some speakers and you do some Q&A, but you're going to see that they're going to have a conversation with each other, and about halfway through we're going to open up in the room and tap in the wisdom of the people here and what your experiences have been with these, and to hear your questions. So with that, I'm going to let each of the speakers do a little bit of introduction of themselves, and to also say from, oh, we lost the slides. I'm distracted. To say from their experience how they define these different roles. So Harumi, can we start with you?
Sure. Hi everyone, I'm Harumi Quiñones, Austria. I've been on this campus for about 15 years. I was an undergrad here and loved it so much I rolled right into being a staff person. My first position on campus was as an administrative assistant, but I always knew that I wanted to maybe go into advising with students. I had actually, in my undergrad career, decided I would teach. I wanted to teach English as a second language or as a foreign language. And then I actually got some experience in the classroom and said, oh, wow, you got to entertain a lot of people all at once. And maybe this is a little too draining for me. So I switched gears and I'm like, what can I do with kind of that one-on-one or one with a small group? And I realized that student advising would be a much better fit for me. And so my first foray into mentorship and coaching and sponsorship was to ask people who were in the field, like, how did you get this job? And what do I need to do to become an advisor? So that's enough about myself. I just want to go first into the questions. So what is the difference between a mentor, a coach, and a sponsor? So for me, a mentor is, someone you can go to for guidance. They're a trusted individual. They could be at the same level as you. They could be a higher level position, but there's someone that you can talk to and just say like, hey, this happened at work. My boss said this, or one of my employees said this, and I'm trying to figure out how best to approach the situation. Here's what I'm thinking of doing. Can you give me a check? Is this okay to do? And they might tell you like, you may want to hold off on saying something like that, right? So your mentor is someone that you have a dialogue with and get advice on how to move forward. A coach, I feel like, is someone who can really help you on the details of like how to do something well. So for example, if you have to do a lot of public speaking and you're not as comfortable with it, you might go to a coach who will help train you in public speaking, or who can help train you in better preparing your resume or whatnot. And a sponsor, I do think, is someone who's going to vouch for you and say, hey, this candidate who's applying to your job, they are A-OK. And that person, that sponsor, will help open up doors, whether it's a job or whether it's an internship or the ability to sit on a committee that you might otherwise not have an opportunity to. The sponsor is the person that kind of helps open the doors. So that's how I see those 3 roles. Larry?
Okay, thank you. I'm Larry Conrad. I'm the Chief Information Officer here at UC Berkeley. My career has been sort of the antithesis of Harumi's. You said you came to school here and didn't go. Mm-hmm. I've been sort of a professional gypsy, so I'm the other side of the spectrum. I've been here at Berkeley 3.5 years. This is a fabulous place. And I guess I want to start just by, first of all, congratulating all of you for being here, okay? And Bene said something that I think is really important here. She said intentional, the word intentional. And I think that is one of the most important words in English language, at least from a career, managing your own career standpoint. And I will just tell you candidly, you know, I've been doing this a long time. I've been a manager a long time. I will tell you that clearly the majority, vast majority, frankly, of the people I've worked with over the years, good, capable folks, great skill sets, I would characterize them as something I lovingly call floaters. And by that, I mean people who, you know, they're just going to wait and see what happens. And, you know, if something good option comes along, great. If it doesn't, well, that's just the luck of the draw. I don't believe in that, frankly. I think, well, don't get me wrong. I mean, if somebody, if that's their choice, that's fine. But I think it's important to really try to take charge of your own career. And I heard something actually just came out of Intel many, many years ago, but always stayed with me. The Intel at the time had an actual formal philosophy. It said each employee is responsible for their own promotability. Think about that for a moment. That's a lot of responsibility, right? But I think that's right, and I think at least I hope the reason you all are here at this session this morning is because that's what you would like to do, is take more direct control of your own career path, and I strongly believe in that. I strongly support that. So at any rate, so enough preaching. I'll get back to the first question, which is. At least my view of what the difference is between a coach, a mentor, and a sponsor. And there's clearly some overlap. And of course, we have 4 panelists here, so you know you're going to get some differing perspectives on this. But maybe somewhat simplistically, when I think about what a coach is, I think, well, a coach is somebody who really gives you advice on what to do. A mentor is somebody who gives you advice on how to do it. And as I think about sponsor, it's somebody who supports you for what you are doing, in what you're doing. Again, I'm sure it's not quite that clear cut and dried, but I think that's a way to, at least as I think about it, to get at the nuances between the two. So my charge this morning is to come at it specifically from the sponsor viewpoint, and I'll use my example. I had a mentorship program last year. I had Mark Brindle in telecommunications, which is part of my organization. And worked with Mark over that year, and one of the things that we worked on early on, is basically, what do you want to do? What do you want out of this? And what we came to, or what Mark came to, is that he had a great deal of interest in being a project manager. So first of all, I encouraged him. Well, you got to get some training. Okay, I mean, that is a discipline. I mean, there is a set of principles. Which he took the initiative to go off and do. And then I also took the opportunity of saying, well, look, there's always more stuff to do than we've got resources to do. I think that's generally true here at Berkeley, and I think at most universities, frankly. So we were able to find a project that he could wade into, give him a chance to get some hands-on, practical, real-world experience, not a theoretical project, but something that we actually needed help with, and that he was able to wade into. So I think for me to just wrap up my portion, I think about, all right, so what can I, as a sponsor, do? One is I think I can help the person understand what the issue is, the problem, whatever, the opportunity. Help the person understand the perspectives, and I'll say plural because there's often more than one perspective on a particular situation. Clarify what the goals are. I mean, if you can't really act unless you know what your desired outcome is, but you'd be surprised. I've seen a lot of people who are they're just upset. They don't know what to do about it. And, when you ask, well, what does success look like? Maybe they don't actually know. So helping with sort of that values clarification piece, help the person understand the options, share my experience if I've got anything that's relevant, offer advice if asked, but I'll underscore if asked. And then finally, I think certainly as a sponsor, I shouldn't be trying to solve the problem. I mean, at the end of the day, and this is back to how I started my comments, intention or taking control of your career, you can't look to somebody else to solve your problem. You can learn from somebody else. I think that's what this is all about. But certainly as a sponsor, I don't help, I'm sorry to be cliches, but it's the old story about, don't give somebody a fish, teach them how to fish. And I think that's part of what this whole program is about. Thanks.
I'm Ruth Ann Hafke. I'm the Career Services Manager at the School of Public Health. I've been on the Berkeley campus for 20 years, 10 years at the Career Center as a career counselor, and 10 years now at the School of Public Health. And before that, maybe 5 years other places doing career counseling. So I'm here to talk about being a career counselor or a coach. And I'm just curious, by a show of hands, how many people have gone to a career counselor or a coach any time in your life? It's a pretty good representation here. How many people feel like they have a mentor in their life or have had a mentor in their life? I think everyone has had a mentor in their life as far as I'm concerned. And I think mentors are people that are role models for you, and you maybe actually never even have a dialogue with them, but somebody that you see that you aspire to be like could be a mentor because it's that vision of what you see yourself moving towards. There's also more formalized mentorship opportunities to engage and connect with people on a more meaningful level, and I have had people who literally will come up and, will you be my mentor? And so formalizing that process. And then there are opportunities on campus, formalized opportunities to engage with people as mentors as well. As a career counselor and coach, I like to say that I'm like going to the dentist. So it was nice to see that there were quite a few people who raised their hands. So while a mentor to me is someone that you can just aspire to be like, going to a career counselor or coach actually might involve stepping up, stepping out of your comfort zone. So that's where the dentist piece comes. I like my dentist, but often I have to get a reminder card, I have to get a phone call, and before I actually will commit to make the appointment. So similarly, I find with the coaching piece that sometimes there has to be a little bit of pain in order to make that next step, to reach out for a career counselor or coach. And my role as a counselor, I'm trained as a counselor, I have a degree in counseling. My role in training as a counselor is really about thinking about the past, what's gotten you to where you're at right now. My training as a coach is more about how do we move forward? How do we motivate you to make the choices and engage in the future that you see for yourself? So having training on both sides of it, I often encourage people to reflect on what have they done in the past to get them where they're at, what are the strengths and the talents that they want to draw on that will help them and motivate them to move them into the future. And then the sponsorship, I see that role as somebody who really does have the power and the influence to be able to impact your career. And so a sponsor is often somebody who has the authority, are in management roles. As a counselor, as a coach, I actually would say that I don't give people advice. My role is to help you clarify for yourself what's the right choice for you. Often I find that my clients, I help them find the confidence to make the changes that they want. A lot of times clients will say, you say the most amazing things. And honestly, all I do is say back to them what I heard them say. Somehow, when you hear, we all have that self-talk. When we talk to ourselves, you hear that voice. When you say it out loud to another person and they reflect it back to you, it changes the dynamic. And I would say often mentors, if they're not trained in coaching or sort of don't have a natural inclination to do coaching and are more about the advice giving, they'll come to that discussion differently. Sometimes we have those people in our lives, though, that are just natural at the coaching. And so being able to just say back to people what you hear them saying is a really powerful tool. And then sometimes asking a few probing questions, and not questions that are about what you want to know, but questions that you think that are going to help them move forward in their thinking. And so that's really, to me, what coaching is all about, is helping people empower themselves to find their own right answers. So much thinking about the sports analogy, since we're in this room today and in this facility, the coach isn't the one who goes out there and throws the ball or dribbles or does the laps. The coach is the one that's maybe pointing out a few things for the actual athlete. So you all would be the athletes. So I'd really encourage folks to take advantage of counseling and coaching opportunities, which everyone does have the opportunity to do, and it is a free service that's available on campus for staff and employees of campus. So with that, I'm going to pass it on.
Very good. Wow. Hello, my name is Patrick Allen, and I'm the Director of Student Services in the Department of Economics. I've been on campus for almost 10 years. It'll be 10 years in November, and actually with the same department. And I, with the panelists here, Harume, Larry, and Ruth Ann, I kind of think I want to focus on what it means to be a mentor. And particularly, I think we've all been in the situation where we've had really good mentors, and I think that's what I was thinking about. And actually, before coming here today, I was thinking, okay, what does it mean to be a mentor? And I think for me, it has been that trusted advisor, or really like the situation where it's a really good friend, someone you can go to and have just a real conversation, no judgment, with lots of ideas or lots of concepts that you want to kind of work through, or there again, helping you navigate your career path. I kind of look back at myself when I was a mentee, and actually in my career path. Every single mentor I've had have actually had an impact on the direction I've gone in terms of my career. And this is actually the fifth institution I've worked at. And each one I can go back and say, okay, this mentor has guided me in terms of career choices, and should I make that leap? Should I go move all the way across the country to California? Should I do this? What do you think? And just kind of give me some really sound advice and guidance on the process. And I think for me as a mentor, I've kind of emulated a lot of that. I will say this past year when in the Berkeley Staff Assembly, the organization I'm sure you all are part of, possibly a lot of you are, they have the mentorship program. And I enjoy, I was a part of it actually as a mentee, a part of that. And I'm still connected to my mentor in that process. He actually moved to the University of Colorado, and we still connect from time to time. But with that said, being opportunity to be a mentor, I was thinking, okay, I think I could probably help someone, guide them, and help them with their career choices. And this past year, I had an opportunity to work with an amazing individual or just get to know, and just really energetic. And I know Nicole over here knows what I'm talking about, Jennifer Lopez. And just really a great opportunity to connect with someone who really was trying to define where she wanted to be. You know, she had a lot of great interest in terms of wanting to work in higher education. She has a lot of interest in working in politics. And so a lot of our conversations just kind of like centered around, also in going to graduate school. So a lot of our conversations kind of centered around those kind of primary topics. And at one point, she actually came to me, and we were working through some great things in terms of like, especially graduate school and, what schools to go to and things like that. And she then came up with she said she had an opportunity to become one of the California Fellows. And she explained this opportunity to me. And as soon as she explained it to me, I was like, you've got to do that. If you get an opportunity, you've got to go and do that. That would be so amazing. And so she went through the process, interviews, et cetera. And I really kind of had no doubt. I knew she would be selected, so I was very confident for her, and she was. And so a part of the process was, being there for her and having that conversation with her and saying, it's okay to kind of, this is exploration, to explore and go out there and, really kind of experience those different things, and she has, and is doing amazing things. And actually, I felt like a part of the BSA mentorship was, you need to keep people on campus, and so they can, career path, and actually I kind of told her to go away. Get out of here. Go. So hopefully I won't get any points for that, although they gave me another mentee this year, so I guess they kind of trust me. So I think that's the kind of the biggest thing in terms of being a mentor. You really are there to help that individual. What is that next step? And really kind of help them work through. And I'm very similar to what Ruthann said, and also Harumi and Larry. I'm just here kind of like the sounding board to kind of go through this process with the individual. And I will say that it's a mutual process. I will say that one of the times we did have a conversation, it was kind of like really just how would you work through a problem in your office situation? And if I've had that experience, we've talked about it. This has been my experience. If I actually questioned that I didn't have the experience, we would talk about it. How would we work through this as a professional to get through to an end result, a positive end result? And so I think that's my key thing in terms of what it means to be a mentor.
I guess I'm a little concerned because everyone here are ideal mentors. And so I'm wondering just are there any experiences for people with where maybe it hasn't always been ideal? And I guess what I'm thinking about is that I think sometimes people have their own agendas and they bring that as a mentor. And sometimes the mentees are disadvantaged if they're thinking that their mentor always has their best interest at heart.
I know for me personally, I think I've never had a situation where I've had a bad mentor, but I also, it's like a mutual seeking out. I think if you're seeking out an individual, and you don't even need to go through a formalized program to seek out a mentor as a mentee, you can do that in any phase. But I actually, personally, have not had that situation, but I will say that if I did, I probably would try to kind of just assess, like, okay, is this the person that needs to be? Is this their agenda, my agenda, et cetera, so.
And I would add, I've had those situations. If you work long enough, you're going to work with the spectrum of people. Some folks who are terrific, maybe some people who aren't so terrific. So at any rate, I've had a couple of experiences like that. By definition, they're not mentors. If they're not there trying to help me, if they're playing their own agenda and trying to manipulate me, and I've had that experience, they're not a mentor.
I think I would second Larry's comments. For someone who's young and just started working straight from school on this campus, my first mentor, the first person I thought should be a mentor was my boss. And very quickly I learned precisely what Ruthann said, that maybe they're not really the best person to think about as a mentor because their interests may coincide with mine and I can get some great advice, but their interests may also be different. Like, I need you to stay in this job. I don't want to have to hire someone else. You want to grow, but no, maybe you should just stay here. Maybe you should just focus on this. Why even bother with these other things? That's not a mentor. So I think that sometimes you really want to choose that person that you think is going to reflect back to you, is going to help with the coaching piece, is going to help with being a sounding board. Like I said, my first experience thinking of like, oh, who should be my mentor? I thought it would be my boss. That wasn't the case. But I actually found that my boss's colleague, who worked in a very similar environment, actually ended up being my first unofficial mentor. We never even talked about mentorship. The concept wasn't even part of my dialogue at that time. But she had a similar role to my boss. She had an understanding of the field in which I wanted to grow and develop. And I would just meet up with her for, coffee or lunch hour, or sometimes in the evenings. And she was very generous with her time. And I still talk to her today. Actually, I just emailed her the other day and said, hey, are we going to get together anytime soon? So I think, you want to pick someone who you have an affinity for, who might be a great role model, as this person was for me, but also someone, as Larry said, who cares about you as a person and not about your particular role in this one job that you might have.
As we've had this conversation the last couple minutes, it occurs to me that there's maybe another way to think about a mentor. I mean, there can be positive mentors and there can be negative mentors. So first 15 years of my career I was in the private sector. My last private sector job, I can remember there was an insurance company, and there was an older guy had been in the company, 30 plus years or something like that, and he would listen to the IT people complain. Sometimes IT people complain, and he at the end of the conversation he would say something along the lines of, there's never a situation that is so bad that it can't serve as a good example of what not to do. So yes, you can still learn from people, even if it's what not to do.
Well, I'm wondering if the panelists, if there's a story that you can share about either the value that you found in either having a mentor, a coach, or a sponsor, or something that you learned that you think helps kind of crystallize part of the value.
I can kick that off. One of the, as I think about my career, I've had two managers that I think of explicitly as mentors. So it wasn't a formal thing. I wouldn't have used that word at the time. It's sort of after the fact. But the last mentor I had was actually a CFO when I was at Florida State University, and this guy had an amazing ability and something that I've always tried to emulate. He was very busy, lots of things that, 1,400 people in his organization, something like that, a huge organization. But he had a real gift that when you sat in his office talking to him, he made you feel like talking to you was the most important thing he had to do. That's a gift. Not sitting there, reading email or reading something on the desk, but totally focused on what you were saying, listening, hearing. Didn't always agree. Very forceful leader. When it came time to make decisions, he made decisive decisions. And even when it wasn't the way I wanted to go, I always felt like, well, at least he heard me. Okay, it wasn't a matter of it was an uninformed decision. He at least heard my part. So I've always thought that was a great gift and something I've tried to incorporate into my career as well.
I think for me, it's been being a mentor. One thing that I think about is the mutual, the relationship. There's a mutual exchange of information and ideas. That's one of the things that we often in our jobs kind of. Sometimes we're just working so hard and we're really focusing on things. We just want that opportunity to just have a conversation about, higher ed or whatever it ends up being in terms of career focus. And for me, I think this relationship, it's like, so for like the mentee and mentor relationship, what have you, it's not one way, right? It's a two-way thing, and I'm learning and always energized every time I meet a mentee. And I know with past mentees and my current one so far, we just really really trying to talk about things and really that are important to us, and just the mutual respect and conversation and dialogue, and it just really taking that time, hour just to do that. I know, not like I said, in our busy work life, sometimes we just don't get a chance to do that. And so that's what I really enjoy about being a mentor and with the mentee-mentor relationship.
I'll go next. So in terms of the value of mentorship, I'd like to share that you can get mentorship from a lot of different people. You don't have to have a formal mentor. Like many of these folks on the panel, I've been through the BSA mentorship program. It was a wonderful experience. It gave me some language and some tools to actually understand how I can proceed in a role as a mentee and later on as a mentor. But when I think back over my career at Cal, I had some mentors even before I knew that they were mentors. And that's something that I'd like to relay to all of you. If you don't already have a mentor, seek out a mentor, because it definitely gives you, first of all, we're in tough times at the university. You know, there's budget cuts, there's challenges in our workplace. Being able to have someone who cares about you, who will listen to you, who will reflect back maybe what you're feeling, or that they also are having similar experiences. First, that connection will definitely help you feel more centered and be able to continue despite whatever challenges you're facing. Second, you know, they can give you perspective. Sometimes, as Patrick said, when you're in your own world and you're doing your own thing and you're aware that other things might be going on campus, but maybe they're not quite filtering down to your conscious in the way that will help you understand your value, your role, your piece in the puzzle. And so a mentor can oftentimes be able to bring that aspect out and help you see the bigger picture. So I encourage folks, if you haven't joined the BSA mentorship program, take advantage, because it will give you a vehicle to learn about mentorship. And if you've already had a mentor, or you've been through the program and you can't because it's like a one-time deal, consider becoming a mentor for others, and consider branching out and just finding someone who you'd like to mentor you, because I feel like for me, it's been such a huge part of my life. I had a mentor through the BSA program. She was the Associate Vice Chancellor of Admissions and Enrollment. She became my mentor right at a time when I was in a transition. I had gone from being a student advisor to now managing a team. And I was like, oh, this is new territory, because now I don't have to just worry about my own work. I have to worry about the work of my team. And so I was able to get a lot of insights from her on how to be a better manager. More than that, I've got a lot of advice on how to manage up, because I actually felt like I had a solid team and we had good rapport, but sometimes my boss would say things that would stress me out or would make decisions that made me feel powerless. And being able to go to this mentor and say, has this ever happened to you? Or, I'm feeling like my power has been taken away and, my toes are being stepped on. Am I being too sensitive? And to hear her reflect, sometimes bosses just do that. And I've been in that situation. And, here's how I handled it. Here's how one of my colleagues handled this. They're very different styles. Ultimately, you need to know you need to figure out what's best for you in this situation. You're the only one who knows. But here are some examples that you can use so that you can figure out how to proceed. Because at the time, I had no other examples. So I think mentorship is a wonderful thing that everyone should aspire to get a mentor.
So this reminds me of a client that I worked with last week, actually. And she was feeling stuck in her job. I don't know if anyone here has ever had that feeling. I certainly never felt that way after 20 years being on campus. She was feeling stuck at her job, and so I did some reflection. What I hear you saying is, and then in coaching, we use a lot of analogies and metaphors. And so the metaphor I heard was, it sounds like you're in a family and that you're wanting your leadership to be the parents, the ideal parents, the perfect parents. Is it realistic for your leadership to actually everyone be on board on the exact same thing and be moving in the same direction? Not in most large institutions that I've worked at. So if these were your parents, and now that you're a parent, how do you feel about that, this idea of leadership as a parent? And she was in a position where she didn't have authority, but in a leadership role with no authority. So the analogy that came across was, it sounds like you're the big sister, and that you have to keep showing up in these places where you're the big sister. You don't have the authority to tell people what to do, but you sort of have to act like the parent, and you're looking for parents. You have to parent the parent kind of thing, right? So just having that discussion, talking through what she was feeling about the situation, it helped her frame it in a different way. So she went from being the neglected child to the person who actually can take care of themselves and was being given a lot of autonomy and authority, but it made her feel like the neglected child, right? So again, I think this is the difference between mentoring and counseling or coaching, because as a mentor, I would have had a different discussion. These are some things you could try. These are what other people have what I've seen other people do, kind of thing. But in the counseling role, it is much more about also unpacking the emotions and then helping that person explore for themselves what's the right next step for them.
So one of the things that I've heard you talk a lot about is the importance of the conversation in these different roles. Do each of you have a tip or two that you would share? Kind of, some of us are introverts, or maybe kind of this is something that would be new to us. A tip or two on kind of getting the conversation started, or how to prepare for a conversation?
Can I start? So first thing is invite someone to lunch or coffee. I'm an introvert, but I make a habit of trying to, on a regular basis, meet up with different people. And I also like to bring different groups of people from across campus together for lunches on a regular basis. And usually it just requires that invitation, that one person to reach out to other people. So I would all encourage you today to write down the name of somebody that you want to have a lunch or a coffee with and send that email. It takes 2 minutes to send the email. So that's my tip, is to just invite somebody to have a discussion.
I'm going to build off of that, especially if the person that you're hoping to have become your mentor is really busy and you don't really know them that well. You've seen them, you've heard them speak, and you're like, oh, I think he would be a great mentor, she would be a great mentor, but you've never actually had a conversation with them. You want to couch your email first check their BCal, see if they have any openings, right? You got to do a little stalking. I know it sounds weird, but and then
Stalking?
little stalking, not real stalking, but just because you want to find something that's good for them. So you look at their BCal and you see, oh, look, they have availability next Wednesday and next Friday at the noon hour. It doesn't look like there's anything booked. So then you might write, I saw you speak at whatever, or my colleague has talked about you, or however you can relate to them, right? Because if it's someone that you haven't worked with before and you'd like to meet and work with them, it's good to have an in. The second thing is, I would love to meet you for coffee or for lunch, and it looked like you had availability on your schedule on this day or time. I'm available at these, give them 3 times. This is what I tell my students all the time. Tell your professor you 3 times and dates so that they can say either yay or nay, right? But you've made it easy. Because when you say to someone who's really busy, hi, I'd love to meet you for coffee or lunch. And they're like, what? Now I have to go and schedule it? If they're really busy, they're not going to do it. Not because they don't want to meet with you, but they're just like busy, right? So make it easy for them to meet with you and let them know why you're interested in meeting with them. One of the things that has helped me is when I went to a conference setting and I heard someone speak and I'm like, wow, that person is really great. I think we could connect. Go up to them after the conference or after, and say, hey, I'd love to talk to you. Give them your business card so that they know you already. And then it's much easier to have that follow through with the email and they'll remember you.
I want to add one tip building off of that as well. The other thing I want you to do is just take a minute and think of something that you're good at and that you enjoy. And now imagine someone coming and saying, can you tell me about this thing that you're good at and that you enjoy? And that's what you need to think about when you're asking people to connect with you, to have these lunches, to talk to you. Because often we won't reach out to people because we feel they're too busy, because they're not. But if you give someone the opportunity to talk about the thing that they're passionate about, they're going to enjoy doing it and they're going to want to do it. So you're never a burden when you reach out to people to ask to have these kinds of opportunities to engage and to network with each other or connect. It's not networking, it's a connecting workshop. So don't be intimidated. It's really an opportunity to have people remember why they love their jobs is really what it comes down to. Because we all get in those states where we don't like our jobs. But when you get to talk to somebody about the work that you're doing and why you're passionate about it and why you're here and why you give, it helps invigorate their career as well as your own. So definitely reach out to people that way.
I think I'd also like to share that, within the group you have, or your colleagues and other individuals who've been on campus, you can connect in groups as well. I mean, there's like an opportunity, for example, I'm involved in a higher education career professional group, and essentially it's just a bunch of individuals who we get together on a monthly basis, and they're from other institutions as well. They're not just from Cal, actually. And we just get together and we talk about a lot of different things in directions of our careers and where we want to go. And it's a little bit of each of these processes. It's coaching, it's mentoring, and it's sponsorship in a way, in a sense that we all kind of are accountable to each other, and we're trying to help each other kind of like encourage each individual to pursue what that next opportunity is. So that's another thing too you might want to think about, just kind of like small little groups that you can form with people on campus, away from. I will say that piggybacking in terms of reaching out to mentors, I as a mentor have a mentor. I just actually found another mentor about a year ago with an individual I had worked with many moons ago, and we reconnected. He actually is at San Francisco State now and kind of moving up the career path and very similar to the direction I would like to go. And so we've reconnected. And as soon as I contacted the individual, very, very busy, he said, yeah, sure, let's get together. And we actually get together once a month. We actually get together for breakfast on the weekends. It's really the only time he can actually carve out for me. But we actually have done this, and it's been really encouraging for me to kind of like seek the next path for me, such as my education and career focus as well. So there again, as Harumi mentioned, it doesn't necessarily have to be someone here on campus. It can be, the person could be anywhere actually, and just kind of seek that individual out.
So my tip would be push yourself outside of your comfort zone. And I relate. Ruth Ann said she is an introvert. I guess I've always recognized that I'm sort of a square one introvert. Way over in the corner. And I'm very aware one of the reasons I ended up in IT was I much preferred dealing with things rather than people. Which is sort of odd given what my job is now. But it took me several years to discover that, actually, people's how you get things done. But at any rate, if you only do the things you're comfortable doing, you will not grow and you will not advance. So, and I'll just use my own example. I think I can remember the first time I forget, you don't even remember how I got into it, but I got roped into giving a presentation. I had never given a presentation in my life. And to stand up in front of a group of, I don't know, 30, 40 people at the time, oh my God, the sweat was pouring down under my armpits and my voice was shaking and all this stuff. And I recognized, you know, I'm going to need to do that. So, you know, at a point later on, I did something that's kind of maybe a little corny, but I joined Toastmasters. And, you know, spent a couple years in that. And, you know, it works. And I'm just using that example is that, you know, if you're going to grow, you got to figure out what are those things that you're going to need to do. Look around, look at the people, like Patrick's idea of, you know, identifying somebody who's in an area that he'd like to go, and then figure out what are the skill sets that those people have, and then figure out how to get those. And particularly if it feels really uncomfortable, that ought to be a big warning, big red button, right? A big red siren that, yeah, this is something you need to work on.
Now I'd like to open it up to the audience, and before we go into Q&A, I saw a lot of head nodding as people were sharing their stories, and I want to hear a couple tips from you. And it could be tips around the conversation starters, it could be tips around building the relationship with a mentor, but I'd love to hear from you. Great, yeah.
So I just, with the BSA mentorship program, the push at the beginning is you need to meet with 3 people to participate, but don't waste this opportunity. It's the best part of the program. Meet with 5 or 6. So, and I don't think, so I met with 23 people.
Oh, wow.
I thought I would never get to be in California Hall without 50 angry people with placards, but I sat on the, like, you know, leather chairs, watching people walk by me like 3 times. Like, be bold. Like, people, like was it there? People want to talk about themselves. I like to talk about myself. My kids like to talk about themselves. It's just universal, and people, like, I feel like probably like half of the people I had coffee with in that process would not have had time to respond to my invitation had there not been a formal, they had said they were going to do this. But half of them I never would have reached out to, and they would have met with me, you know, if I had been on staff for 3 months and I had just invited them to have coffee with me because they were just pleased as punch to talk. So I just, yeah, be bold. I mean, the worst that can happen is someone you don't know is not going to meet with you, and they haven't met with you before, so you no loss.
Can we get one more tip? Yeah, Mikkel, thanks.
Hello, everyone. My name is Mikkel. I would say one of my tips, because I also take advantage of going out to coffee with people and inviting folks for lunch or just a walk, whatever fits into their schedule, but just following up afterwards. So emailing them to just thank them and checking in. Sometimes I'll even, if I really don't have many connections with that person, I might not see them in my day-to-day, I might even put a little notation on my calendar for like 2 or 3 weeks, a month or 2 down the line, just like check in with so-and-so. Yeah, so just like keeping in contact with them and being patient in that sense, especially if you don't know them well, because the more you kind of put yourself out there, start attending events or mixers or networking, things like that, you'll run into them again, and that's kind of where that building that rapport and relationship can start developing. So.
Thanks. So let's go ahead and open it up to any questions that you have for the panelists. Yeah.
My name is Margie. I'm the grad student I have a question for anyone who's been involved in the BSA mentorship program, and I'm not sure that this is the forum, but I'll go ahead and ask anyway. To what extent can someone who wants to be a mentee find someone who has volunteered to be a mentor? Because I am interested in finding someone who has made a commitment to being a mentor, who wants to be a mentor. To what extent can we match well or find someone within the program who is in the field that we want to perhaps go into?
I'll field that one because I'm on the career development committee for BSA and I help with the processes. It's very dependent on the mentee's interest and the mentor's interest. But for example, this year, I think we had 70 or so applicants, and we probably had 100 some mentor applicants as well. So we always try, the committee always tries to get more mentors than mentees so that mentees have a choice when they go about looking for folks. We ask our mentors to supply us with their resume so that mentees get a chance to look through the resumes and find who might be a good match for them in terms of career history or career path, in terms of current role, in terms of areas or functions that they're in. And then we ask the mentees to go ahead and do interviews, right, with at least 3, but you can do as many as 24 if you can fit it in your schedule. Mentees have about a month to interview.
So there is some choice involved.
Yes, definitely.
There's a question down here. Did you have? Yeah.
Thank you. Thanks for doing that. I was going to skip, but thank you for calling me in. Can I not do it with this? Okay. My name is Catherine Castro. So one of my mentors is on the panel. I love mentorship. It's helped me grow. I'm having a really good problem right now, though. So a lot of my mentors are becoming friends. And so I feel like I don't want to burden them. So there's part of me where I'm like, okay, let me not talk about all the stuff that's going on right now because I really want to know what's going on with you. And then I leave and I'm just like, crap, I have so much stuff in my heart. You know, so I don't know what to do with that. ...
Great. That's a great one.
Is anyone else having that great problem? No. Okay. Okay. Which I love. I love having my mentors as friends. I just don't know what to do.
I've seen a couple people. Does anyone else say anything in the audience? I saw a couple nods.
I think the longer we spend with our mentors, because you start, you also, well, what's new with you? How's that kind of thing? And so that friendship kind of builds up. And so it's striking that balance, I think, or in the sense of, like, if you need to go walk and talk down campus, that's about, work and so forth. But should you meet up afterwards to go for drinks or something like that, then you kind of keep that out. And so
it's the cocktail
right,
that
so
helps. I'm just joking. Thank you.
I think I want to address that as well. So usually if you've established a relationship with someone and they have agreed to be your mentor, yes, as you get to know each other, the friendship arises, but you can always preface a coming meeting by saying, hey, I really would like to get your advice or counsel on this professional area thing. Can I schedule, an hour of your time or 30 minutes or whatever it is, so that they know, if they know that you're actually needing some advice or help or support, they'll help focus on you, right? I mean, again, you don't want to be like, here's my problem. You do want to keep up with the pleasantries and say like, oh, hey, I know you told me last time things were tough, but hope things are going better. Yes, 5-6 minutes, you can talk about their stuff. But again, if you give them warning that you want to focus on you, most likely they will help focus on you because they also will feel an obligation to you.
I'm going to push back a little bit.
No?
And just in that, actually, for me, with not only our relationship, like to me, you don't ever have to check in about where I'm at.
Ruth Ann is my mentor.
And I think it just depends. Like, if you came to me and said, I have a big problem, then let's do it, right? So I would say, for me personally, I'm not as worried about our friendship. I'm invested in our role and our relationship as a mentor even more than our friendship. I think the friendship is a way actually sort of secondary to this other role, which, and that's because of the way that we came into it in a more formalized way. And that's just me. But I know that there are other people that might feel differently.
Somebody in the back and then up here in the front.
I'm Lisa Spivak. I work for Haas as a development officer. And I'm lucky enough right now to be in a couple of formal mentor relationships, both with a mentor and as a mentor. And I was wondering if the panel could speak a little bit to, and those relationships are just getting started. So I'm really interested in setting goals, setting expectations, and kind of setting ground rules for those relationships. And I was wondering if anyone could speak to that, sort of how to structure the relationship for success from the beginning.
I know just forming a new, mentor-mentee relationship. And in one of our first meetings, that was exactly what we talked about, exactly what were the expectations about our relationship, what we wanted, mostly what did the mentee want to get from this experience. And with that conversation, we're able to define that. I think one of the things I know Harumi was mentioning, what I established for my mentee last year was a Google Doc. And it actually, because we're always, trying to think of things or things are happening. I established the Google Doc, and so we can both go in there and this has happened, this is something I'd like to talk about the next time we get together. And so I go in there every time we meet, before we meet, I go and say, okay, what are the issues that we're going to be kind of needing to address? And that's really helpful as well. There again, it's kind of solving problems or, just kind of working through things. But as I mentioned before, so in the first meeting, we just established expectations, what we wanted to both kind of mutually agree upon to get from the experience, and then go from there, and then also create the Google Doc of, information we want to kind of discuss in future meetings.
I'll add, so for my situation last year, since my mentee was part of my organization in particular, I sort of established two initial ground rules. One, and you've sort of heard me talk about this, don't look to me to solve your problems. I will help you solve your problems. But at the end of the day, you have to take responsibility for your own life and what's happening, and I'll offer whatever guidance, advice, suggestions, perspective, insights that I can. Secondly, because I was actually, in his management chain, when we were meeting his mentorship, one of the things, basic ground rule was, this is not your opportunity to jump your management chain. I'm here to help you if you have issues related to work, supervisor or whatever, you need to follow your management chain. Or if you want to come and talk to me about these, I'm happy to talk to any employee about their problem, but not in the mentorship discussion. Okay, so those were two of the key ground rules I set.
Yeah.
For those individuals, for whatever reasons they may have, if they want to be part of the BSA program and they're not able to attend, are there any other resources available, or do you have any suggestions for those individuals that may not have the time for whatever reason?
So I would recommend we have career coaches on campus who they're not mentors, so there's a different kind of relationship, but they can also support you in your career goals. And the BSA mentorship program, it is a commitment, it's a year-long program, but you don't need to go through that to get a mentor on campus. And that's what I'd really like to encourage people. when I first got a mentor on campus, it was through the BSA mentorship program, and that program gave me some of the steps, the vehicles to learn how to better approach people. But in learning those steps, I realized, oh, I've had mentors all my life. I just didn't think of them as mentors. I just thought of them as, an older person or like a big sister or big brother that helped me out when I asked them for advice. But those actually were mentor relationships. And so one of the things that I encourage folks to do is, if you can't do the BSA mentorship program, that's okay. You can still seek out mentors on your own.
We have time probably for one more question. Yeah.
I got a question for the panel. Have you guys had any mentees that made lateral movement here at the university without a degree, or is that degree essential to your movement here at the university?
Not experienced that.
Sounds like we don't have that experience.
Yeah.
I mean,
So the degree is essential.
well, I was going to say, I'll just go back to what Rosemary Ray was talking about this morning, which is that it's not necessarily about what degrees that we have, and that it's really about us as individuals and what we demonstrate in terms of what we can do, some of the characteristics that speakers were talking about this morning, like bringing integrity to the work, and that I certainly have seen people rise in the organization without degrees. So just because they haven't had that experience doesn't mean it's not happening on campus. Does somebody want to? Yeah, Callie.
Hi, I just wanted to add to that and say that, I've been here for 3 years and never had experience in higher ed before. And for me, what's helped me move forward is actually staff organizations and being a part of other things like BSA mentorship, or I'm part of BFN, Berkeley Facilitator Network, and that's helped me meet people, which has helped me gain skills, which has helped them see, oh, you can actually move into this position now. So unless it's like really, I think, defined, where you need like a specific set of skills that only you can get from a degree, I think there's a lot of movement.
That's a BFN?
Yeah, Berkeley Facilitator Network, there's a lot of community practices and staff orgs that you can find on the website, but that, anything that might be of particular interest to you can help you do that.
And if you go to stafforg.berkeley.edu, you can see all the communities of practice and the other affinity groups on campus. So I wanted to wrap things up and definitely thank our panelists for their time today. Thanks to audience members who were brave and bold enough to share their tips and their questions, and to also ask you to please do the evaluations for the team. The planning committee and the volunteers are working really hard, and they'd really love your feedback. Thanks, everybody.